When Zak Brown said that he would rather Max win than be unfair to his drivers, I didn't think he was being absolutely serious. But at the Qatar Grand Prix, we found out that that was very, very true. Let's discuss it. This video is brought to you by checkmythumbnail.com, the analysis tool for YouTubers by YouTubers. Try it free today. So at the Qatar Grand Prix that I'm recording this literally straight after, obviously you will know that Max Verstappen has won. If this is a spoiler alert, why would you click this video? Obviously Piastri finished second, and Lando Norris, at a race where if he had have won he could have become champion, didn't even finish on the podium. Now, part of that is down to Lando, but it is also down to McLaren just making an absolute balls of things in the name of fairness. And then going even further than that as to not even try and fix the problem later on. It was an absolute shit show. I don't know what other way to put it. The good news is, especially if you're a neutral fan like me, or a Max fan, I guess, is that this is going down to the wire in Abu Dhabi now, and I'll talk about the title match in tomorrow's video. But if you're a McLaren fan, or a Norris fan, or a Piastri fan, this must have been heartbreaking because they essentially threw away the race in the name of fairness. Now, I, like many other people, I believe, thought for a moment, hang on, there's a chance that McLaren have absolutely blitzed this. Turned out not to be the case, but let's rewind for a minute back to the run-through of what we got here so I can explain my frustration with how bad this team is in chronological order. So this all began with Pierre Gasly deciding that it was time for the French to not surrender and to take vengeance on the Germans roughly 80 years too late. And he did this by taking Hülkenberg out coming into one of the corners. Even though Hülkenberg left a good bit of space, they both ended up with burst tyres. Hülkenberg ended up off the track and a safety car was brought out on lap 7. Now, the lap 7 part is really, really important because remember, there was a 25 lap maximum on any tyre this weekend, thanks to Pirelli being, well, what's the word again? Oh yeah, Pirelli. Pirelli decided that they didn't want to make better tyres after last year. Instead, they would just cap the amount of running and not just allow the teams to do it, which I think they should have, to be honest. I know it's a safety issue, but surely the teams can figure this out, and also more fun for us if they push it. I guess that goes against safety, but given Pirelli can't make tyres. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. The point is, lap 7 was very, very important because it was a 25 lap maximum, and therefore that meant that you could do 7, 25 and 25. It's a 57 lap race. So this was the earliest that anyone could pit. And as soon as a safety car came out, given that you could get essentially a free pit stop and it's a 26-second loss, basically everyone pulled into the pit stop. Everyone except for 3 drivers. The 2 McLarens at the front, Piastri and Norris, as well as Oscar. And that was it. Everyone else pitted. It was like Hungary 2021 all over again, except this time there was 2 morons still circulating around. Now, from this point onwards, I thought to myself, maybe there is some method in the madness here. There wasn't, and I'll explain what actually happened in a while, but I thought for a moment there might actually be some method in the madness, because think about it this way. They could stay out on mediums, the rest of the drivers could stay out only until lap 32, which meant they could either go on a much slower hard, which is what inevitably happened, or try and take a soft tyre 25 laps. McLaren, on the other hand, could run 2 mediums for 2 stints of 25, which they knew they could handle from practice, from the sprint, etc., and then go on to a soft tyre run for 8 laps or 10 laps at the end and absolutely blitz it. They didn't do any of that, though. They went on the mediums for 25 laps and 23 laps, I think, or 21 laps for Piastri, and then decided to go on the slower tyre that everyone else had gone on so that they could go to the end without issue. Why? Why does that make any sense? I guess let's talk about the point that annoys me the least about McLaren's decision here, which is the decision to go on to hards at the end. What the fuck were you doing going on to hards at the end? Look, at the end of the day, you weren't winning the race in the pit stops anyway. Oscar wanted to go and hunt down Max Verstappen. Even though Max Verstappen was on older hard tyres, you knew that the hard tyres weren't degrading as much, especially because on the soft tyres, Piastri was Piastri was bashing in 25/8 basically every lap. So we were getting very little degradation on the medium tyres. So they knew there wasn't going to be degradation on the hards, and they knew that the softs could at least last 12 laps almost in full anger, at least 8 or 9. So when he came in with, I think it was only 12 laps to go, why not stick on the softs? Worst case, you wear them out and just manage towards the end. Even more so for Lando Norris, who didn't come in until lap 50 anyway and had 7 laps to hunt down 2 drivers, and he got very, very close to Sainz at the end after Antonelli inexplicably just went out of the way to let him by. I don't know what happened there. I'll need to watch it back again. But the point is, if he was on soft tyres, he more than likely would have cleared that. Also, for the first few laps at least, even on the same tyre, Oscar Piastri was doing 2 seconds a lap quicker than Max, who was in completely free air as well. So I think on a soft tyre, he could have bumped that up to maybe 3 seconds a lap. Even if it died, he would have finished second anyway. He had enough of a buffer. So why wouldn't you do that? So going onto the hard at the end, like, did McLaren just not want to win this race? And that brings me back to the point that just annoys me the most. Because honestly, I'm happy that Max is going to the final of this. I'm happy that it's going to the final. But I also want teams to absolutely blitz it and be on top of strategy, and McLaren is just utterly useless so often now. It's actually frustrating. So essentially what happened here was the papaya rules made it impossible for them to dive into the pits because both drivers were annoyed in the moment about them not pitting, and McLaren essentially said, yeah, but they're going to have to pit on lap 32. It's like, all right, so you're gambling when you had a 1-2 or a 1-3 and you were pretty close to Max anyway. Like, that's not the time to gamble. What are you doing? You gamble when you're in Max's position, not when you're up front. So the real reason that they did it is because of papaya rules, because they would have had to double stack and they were within reach of each other. So their option was to leave one or the other out. And because they're not favouring a driver, they didn't want to do it. Lando is the championship leader. According to the papaya rules, Oscar would have had to come in first, which meant that Lando could have then stayed out to see what he could do from the front, which would have pissed off Oscar. If they had brought Lando in first and it had worked out as we kind of expected, if he didn't have the damage and wasn't driving poorly, he technically could have stayed ahead of Max, which means he would have won the championship through a call that McLaren have made. However, Lando was 24 points ahead with one race to go after this. Like, McLaren need to be focused on the driver who is ahead this close in the race. Or let the drivers decide what they want to do. Don't call the strategy. Because now what you've done is you've given the championship to Max. So while trying to be fair to both of your drivers, you've given Max the lead in the championship. I kind of, to be honest, at this point, hope Max wins because McLaren deserve it. I will feel bad for both Piastri and Norris, to be honest, because while they haven't done either of them a perfect job over the season, neither of them have been horribly bad. They've all had their ups and downs over the season, and both of them deserve a fair shot at the championship. But McLaren have royally screwed both of them by trying not to screw either of them. It's ridiculous. But here we are. We go into Abu Dhabi. And I'll talk about the title match tomorrow. But yeah, I just, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I think if one of them wins the title now in the next race, like if Lando wins the title, I think they're going to have a hard time keeping Oscar in 2026 and vice versa. Because this is a moment that they're both going to look at as a point where they lose the championship. And if both of them lose the championship because of this, I think McLaren may find it tough to keep both of them next season unless they have a title winning car. Like if they go into next season and they've got the third or fourth fastest car, or God forbid they're in the midfield, that's going to be a problem for them because this is going to be a pinpoint where both drivers are going to look at and go, well, you decided that neither of us were important and you'd prefer Max to win, even though we played your game the entire way through. Yeah. Not a great look. Subscribe. Oh, but before you go, don't forget to head over to my automotive channel, The Car Nerd, which is being revived. And this Friday, I've got a new video on the Ford Transit. I know, exciting stuff.